Okay, my name is Senator William Fulton. I represent District 4 in Frederick County, and I want to thank everyone for coming out for our conference here, press conference on Senate Bill 292, as well as SB 21. So without any further ado, I'll just turn it over to Frederick County State's Attorney Charlie Smith, who will give the update.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Charlie Smith, State's Attorney, Frederick County. We're just thankful, all of us that represent MSAA and various State's Attorney's Office, victims and community organizations. We're very excited today to kick this off and try to get support through our Senate Judicial Proceedings Committee for support of SB 21 as well as SB 292. But before I get to that and you hear from everybody, I just want to say that MSAA, Maryland State's Attorneys Association, has come together on numerous bills, not just these two, but in total, there are 53 bills that we support. I know sometimes we're up here arguing against bills, and we are, but it's critical for you all to know that we are supportive of much of what's going on in this legislative session, and we do oppose bills that we feel hurt public safety, but certainly are for those that improve public safety in our communities. So today we want to talk specifically about these two bills. They have stalled in years past. We're hoping that that's not the case this year. I believe it's on the list today in the Senate. And you're going to hear specifically from John McCarthy, State's Attorney in Montgomery County, as well as Aisha Braveboy, State's Attorney in Prince George's County, about those two specific bills. So without further ado, I'm going to ask for John McCarthy to take the mic. John?
Thanks, Charlie.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is John McCarthy. I'm the State's Attorney for Montgomery County. And as Charlie mentioned, I'm here to urge the passage of Senate Bill 21. The bill is captioned, Person in Possession of Authority, Sexual Offenses with a Minor. This bill has already been voted out in the House. We need some help in the Senate. That's where we are. We need some help in the Senate. We need movement in the Senate on this bill. The bill is designed to prohibit engaging in sexual acts, contact, or vaginal intercourse with minors under the age of that are 16 and 17 years old. It really, this bill has a narrow focus for a category of individuals here that could be sexually manipulated. We urge the, urge the expansion of the circumstances that every jurisdiction that standing with me here today has seen situations that fall into a gap where we have individuals that are 16 or 17 years old who have been groomed and then manipulated into a sexual relationship with an individual who is substantially older than them. The law that we are urging that be passed here today would make it such that the person has to be at least 21 years of age before this law would apply to them. It would not include somebody who was sort of an age-appropriate sexual partner and didn't fit into one of these other categories. Sadly, most of the cases that we see, the individual who takes advantage of the 16 and 17-year-old individuals is substantially older, in many instances decades older than the 16 or 17-year-old individual. If you were traditionally employed in a Montgomery County school system today and had the kind of relationship with a student, this would be criminal conduct. This is clearly a gap that exists in the law. The law it proposed wants to expand the categories of individuals who lure 16 or 17-year-old individuals into sexual activities, exploiting a position of trust. This would also hold responsible and bar any sexual activities with individuals that are 16 or 17 years old. The categories of individuals, it's a long list of categories of individuals within the bill where we would have this expansion of coverage, just like we already have it for school teachers and counselors in school settings. Among those would be individuals that are involved in child care facilities work, after-school programs, sports, coaches, camps, religious organizations, SAT coaches who might be, working with somebody to improve their board score so they can get into college. Each jurisdiction, again, has seen these cases in a variety of different contexts. The age of consent in Maryland is 16 years old, but because of the position of authority and trust that these individuals have over young children that are 16 or 17 years old, they are able to manipulate and take advantage of these individuals. That's precisely, and in some instances, some of the psychologists that have provided information to us say it's precisely because they're being 16 or 17 and they're sort of developing into adulthood, they misperceive the romantic advances of the individuals who are trying to take advantage of them. And they often lead to long-term mental health issues and challenges for the individual that's a victim. Look, we urge everyone standing here, the Maryland State's Attorneys Association and my fellow state's attorneys that are gathered here today, we all urge the passage of Senate Bill 21 to address a gap that exists that will give greater protection to our children and provide a situation and circumstance where somebody who tries to take advantage of them, violating a position of trust, who engages in sexual activity, will be held accountable, just like a school teacher would be held accountable. Thank you very much. I want to now turn it over to my friend Aisha Braveboy, the state's attorney for Prince George's County.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. My name is Aisha Braveboy, State's Attorney for Prince George's County. Joining me today is Jess Garth, who is the Chief of my Special Victims and Family Violence Unit. I also happen to be here with some of my sorority sisters from Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated, who has taken this issue of human trafficking up as a project for our sisterhood. The Safe Harbor Bill, which is Senate Bill 297, is a critical bill. This important piece of legislation would provide immunity from prosecution for child victims who are survivors of human or sex trafficking. You know, the bill is, I believe, common sense. We should not be seeking to prosecute children who have been abused, but rather to assist them in living full and complete lives. That is why in 2019, I established the Human Trafficking Diversion Program in Prince George's County. This program provides participants with a tailored plan to address their needs. We know that victims are not given a choice. They are forced, threatened to participate in some unimaginable acts. And so we really want to be able to hold the traffickers accountable. And what we know is that the child victims are often our best witnesses, our best chance of holding the traffickers accountable. So instead of further traumatizing them, what we want to do is help them. And this bill will go a long way to help children. We're talking about children across our state. I did want to let you know that we are excited to be joined by so many amazing partners. And I will now turn it over to Ms. Monique Smith.
Help me. Help me. The average age of a traffic victim in the state of Maryland is 12. Senate Bill 292 would help me. Help me. I'm a mother of a young boy who was trafficked when young men are now at a higher demand in the state of Maryland than girls are for prostitution. These are individuals that were groomed. Help me. I'm the teacher, the educator that this child is trying to confide in, and they have nowhere to go and don't understand how to help them. Help me. I'm the new counselor at a facility who I know now I have to turn an individual away because they were incarcerated, maybe because they were fighting the John, the pimp, and they were arrested for trying to survive. Maybe there's a section of survival sex that was had, because even in Maryland, there are still houses where children are living right now, where we serve between 9 o'clock at night till 11 in the morning throughout the city of Baltimore, where we pull black plywood to some of the most vulnerable individuals, many who are children, just to have a meal. But because now you have these criminal activities against you, how do we help be the voice of these young children moving forward? How do we give them the opportunity if we're not setting up systems in place and not be a part of the system that would be currently failing them? We passed a few years ago the vacatur law with adults. So now we know, because of the work of the Maryland State Human Trafficking Task Force, city leaders, volunteers. We passed that law. So if adults now can have their criminal activities removed so they can transition into normalcy, why wouldn't we do that for children who are more vulnerable? We speak about 16 and 17-year-old where there's a fine line where you're trying to expand it, but these 12 and 13-year-old young boys and girls are going to be those 16 and 17-year-olds. And again, we've already started. We just ended child marriages. Maryland, we are on the right road. We're on a great path of being the change. Do you know how long it took for Maryland to pass a law that would not allow someone coming from California and or Texas with a young child that was pregnant at 15 with the age gap of 45 and 55? We did that because we saw the urgency and the need. Vacatur, child marriages. Now, the safe harbor would definitely be something. My name is S. Monique Smith. I'm a survivor, multi-over survivor of many offenses. And I'm also saying, help me help the next set of victims. Thank you.
Greetings, everyone in attendance. That was powerful. I want to thank everybody who has supported and uplifted this critical piece of legislation over the years. My name is Councilman Martin Mitchell. I'm the at-large councilman for the city of Laurel, but I'm also the political action chair for the Maryland State Conference of the NAACP. I'm here to offer support for SB 292, Safe Harbor Bill, because it will help not re-traumatize or punish survivors of child trafficking. The state of Maryland has passed up on this for several years. It is time to pass this compassionate piece of legislation that is long overdue. This Safe Harbor Bill became law over 15 years ago in New York, and now in almost 40 states. I cannot say that Prince George's County is safe from this. Prince George's County is a hotbed for sex trafficking, especially child sex trafficking, and the lower area is not immune to this as well. I read in an article, and I think one of the most important details of this article was when a child victim is charged, they can't access the resources. In other words, without a safe harbor law, Maryland criminalizes child trafficking victims, making them ineligible for existing programs specifically designed for them. So I think that was a very important piece, because we claim to want to help the most vulnerable people, and especially our children. I urge the Maryland State Senate to act now to pass the Safe Harbor Bill and to protect the most vulnerable, because we will be judged by how we treat the most vulnerable and how we uplift and protect the most vulnerable. Thank you.
Reverend Matthew Watley, pastor of Kingdom Fellowship, AME Church, Calverton, Maryland. I stand here today to represent clergy from around the state who have been actively engaged in supporting this bill because we recognize we have an obligation to protect our children. I stand here on behalf of congregations who have been affected directly, who have found their children falling through the gap that should have been closed 7 years ago. I stand here to call us to conscience. This one's easy. We have a moral, ethical, civic, social responsibility to protect our children, period. And as we are talking about accountability, one of the issues that has been used to try to stall this bill has been the idea that somehow children are going to use this to their advantage. By definition, a child cannot be criminalized for sex acts because it's statutory rape. You can't do that to a child. And so we're standing here collectively as a community to say that we expect the accountability to start with the Senate. We've seen it come through the House, And as we are looking to see predators held to account, we expect our leaders to be held to account. I'm not an elected official, I'm a pastor. And I'm here to say, we're looking at this session. And our expectation is that this bill is passed, or you will hear from us very soon. This matter is of that dire consequence. Thank you.
I'm going to call Maryland State's Attorneys Association President Rich Gibson to close us out.
Good afternoon. My name is Rich Gibson. I'm the State's Attorney for Howard County and the President of the Maryland State's Attorneys Association. We're here today because frequently in the media there's coverage about proposed legislation the MSAA is against, but there isn't frequent discussion about what the MSAA supports, what we're for. We will always, as an organization, speak out against proposed laws that weaken public safety. However, we will be consistent in advocating for laws that we feel enhance the safety of our communities, such as this bill. There are 53 other bills the MSAA is supporting this legislative session, and members from our offices have been testifying before lawmakers as to why these changes are necessary to promote a safer Maryland. Bills like House Bill 877, the Reentry Success Act, put forward by Delegate Jessica Feldmark, which is aimed at providing much-needed assistance for incarcerated individuals rejoining society to increase the likelihood of their successful reintegration. The fact is that most people who incarcerate will rejoin the public at some point in time, and it's our best interest to provide programs that support those individuals to encourage a successful reentry. There are several other bills that we're focused on. Again, there are 53 in total. We hope that you've heard our call and that you support these bills and that they are passed. Thank you. We'll take any questions you have.
Before we take questions, my name is Reverend Leslie Dwight. I'm the Minister of Social Justice at Community of Hope AME Church. I'm also one of the lead organizers with the Maryland Safe Harbor Coalition. And we have come to close out this session, this press conference, just to reiterate what you've already heard today, that there must be an urgency in the passing of the Safe Harbor bill. We come to remind you that as of today, this bill has been sitting in committee for 30 days and has not been called for a vote. Our children must come off the back burner. They must be a priority today. I'm going to ask the members of the coalition to come forward. And as we close out, we wanted to give you a visual representation. The people of Maryland have spoken. Over 5,000 letters have been sent to Maryland legislators since February 1, demanding that our legislators pass this bill. You've already heard that it's passed unanimously in the House, and we are calling for unanimous passing in the Senate. Thank you.
I just want to close out by saying this isn't a partisan issue. This is an issue about child safety. We've done a lot for restorative justice for those that have preyed upon our communities. And we've done things to reintegrate them into society and get them trades and do the things we need to do to make them better service advocates when they reintegrate into society. Where we have failed repeatedly is on victims measures. These are the two of the most important victims bills we have this session. I'm proud to be the primary sponsor of SB 21, and I encourage anyone to come forward and contact your legislators and have them move these bills. It's time now.
Questions?
I had a question for Mr. McCarthy, if you want to answer about SB 21. Do you think the resistance to SB 21 has been that it's difficult to prove since the age of consent is 16?
Right.
And you're talking about somebody who is older, to prove it could become a he said, she said situation, unfortunately, where you cannot prove if somebody was manipulated. So is the bill strong enough to legally stand to say that this actually happened, that somebody, when the age of consent is 16, that somebody is actually manipulating 16 and 17-year-olds, as you say?
Well, it would be an absolute bar to that sexual activity, the same way that we absolutely bar you wouldn't allow a history teacher to have sex with someone who's a student in their school that's 16 or 17 years old. That is a crime. We don't get into a he said, she said. We say that that is improper. And so we are looking at people who are in positions of authority and power that have the ability to lure young individuals at 16 or 17 into situations where the law says they can consent But the reality is there is not a balance of power in the dynamics of that relationship. It's an imbalanced relationship where people can take advantage, and they're taking advantage of our children. And we protect them in many, many arenas. They're just a number of arenas. The reason that we're here is because everybody here could tell you a story about a situation. Maybe it involved an SAT prep. Maybe it was a music teacher. That's what we had, a music teacher case. Maybe it's in all kinds of contexts, these things arise. And it is frustrating because we cannot protect these children. And they're pretty vulnerable. I mean, look, the psychologists tell us that they have an extra vulnerability because they're trying to become adult. They're misperceiving in many instances the nature of what is this relationship? Is this truly a romantic relationship I'm having with this individual? Or is this someone who is, in our music teacher situation in Montgomery, I think he was 58 years old and she was 16. Now, where's the balance of power in that relationship? And people take advantage of that. We've actually had situations that I've been told about where people worked with children. They're waiting for them to become 16 or 17. They're waiting for them to become 16 or 17 to take advantage of them. They know precisely what they're doing. It's grooming. There is grooming that goes on in these situations, and that's how it plays itself out. And we want to protect these kids.
Hi, I have a question. I think most of our viewers and readers would be surprised. I think most people probably think this is already under the umbrella of the law. So was it just an oversight when the first law came out? Or, and can you go further into what this law would include? Would it include, for example, priests and members of the clergy?
Well, in most of the situations where child abuse occurs, there is an issue of care and custody. A school teacher has care and custody over an individual. In some of these situations, in our music teacher situation, the father was outside of the room, literally only feet away from his daughter, who was being inside with the music teacher, who was having sex with the daughter in a room only a few feet away. Their argument would be, I never took care or custody over this child. That legal threshold that makes it possible for us to prosecute people in other situations does not exist necessarily in some of these situations, like that music teacher hypothetical. He didn't have care and custody, and so the existing law would not cover that situation. The act was the same. We think the crime is the same, but we couldn't satisfy that legal element of care and custody. Under this bill, it would allow us to go after the after-school people or would, maybe a coach who doesn't have care. Maybe the mom and dad are sitting right there. But in moments when they're not watching, something improper happens.
What is the resistance to the bill? I mean, you say that
I can't speak to that because I don't understand it.
I can speak to it. I can speak to it. Do you want me to explain?
go.
Okay. Sure. Sure.
Clergy member, and who decides what if it's like your sister's music teacher, not yours? Does that count? Like, who gets to decide
So first of all, good afternoon. My name is Debbie Feinstein. I'm Chief of the Special Victims Division for the Montgomery County State's Attorney's Office. I work for John McCarthy, and this would create and close the loophole. So yes, if it's a music teacher, a clergy person, a Girl Scout or Boy Scout leader, a karate teacher, gymnastics, cheerleading, all of those individuals who have the same kind of access to minors but are currently excluded from the fourth-degree sexual offense statute. So that's what we're looking at. And you asked what the opposition was. We've been given hypotheticals by the members of the legislature that have said, well, what if you have a 21-year-old TA and you have a 17-year-old that's in college and they strike up a relationship? Then would that be criminalized? Because that person technically has supervision over the 17-year-old. I will tell you, I've been doing this for 23 years. I have never seen that scenario play out. We don't prosecute those cases. It's supervision, it's manipulation, it's grooming, it's all of the above. And those are not the cases that we're concerned about. And moreover, what we've seen in these cases is when the children turn 16, the music teacher and even the teacher will take the child outside of school without the parents' permission, take them to a hotel, take them to their home. Their parents don't know. So there is no care and custody. And that's what these people do. That's what predators do. They know the law, They're skirting the law, and there is a clear loophole that must be closed, and that's what SB 21 does. It closes that loophole. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I'd like to know for this task force, what are the next steps?
Good afternoon, Joyce King, Chief Counsel of Frederick County State's Attorney's Office and co-chair for the Special Victims Subcommittee of the MSAA. The next steps, the reason why we're having this press conference are both these bills we're calling for a vote for JPR. Both these bills are, Safe Harbor has not been on a voting list. As they stated, it's been heard in committee for 30 days. We're calling for, or asking the community to call your senators and call for a vote, get this on a voting list. The person in position of authority bill is on a vote list today, and it's been on a vote list multiple times and has not been voted on, and we're asking our senators to vote and move these bills out of committee.